Hello, everyone. Today is Wednesday, March 29th. This is the Cluster API office hours. Thanks for joining. If you're new to this meeting, you can see the agenda, meeting notes, and recording in this document that I will paste in the chat. If you don't have access, you need to join the SIG Cluster Lifecycle mailing list to get access. As a reminder, Cluster API is a subproject of SIG Cluster Lifecycle, and we follow the CNCF Code of Conduct in this meeting. So if you'd like to speak, please raise your hand. Just make sure you're respectful with everyone. And with that being said, let's get started. We have a packed agenda today. So first things first, we'd like to give a chance to anyone who's new to the call to introduce themselves if they'd like at the beginning of the call. So if anyone here is new and just wants to say hello and tell us a bit about why they're here or what they're interested in, this is your chance. I will now mute, and if you'd like to say something, please unmute and or raise your hand and speak. Stephen, is it Stephen? Sorry.
Yeah, Stephen. Hey, how's it going? Yeah, my name is Stephen Cahill. This is my first time joining the meeting. Was suggested to join this group by a colleague of mine. I work on the technical support team at Datadog, and I mentioned to a colleague I was looking for an open source project to get involved with, and he recommended this one. So I've been looking around at the quick start docs and checking out some of the source code, and so just kind of familiarizing myself with the whole project. So thanks for having me. Nice to meet you.
Awesome. Thanks for showing up. Nice to meet you. All right. Anyone else? Cool. All right. Let's get moving. So discussion topics. David, sorry, you have the first one. Go ahead.
Yeah. So I know that there's this cluster resource set I came across that has properties of installing add-ons for Cluster API. And it looks like this proposal hasn't been updated in quite a long time. And so I wanted to see from the group where, what was the background, what was the desired usage, because I do see a bit of overlap with the CapH add-on. And so yeah, that's what I had. So if you want to, click on the link for cluster resource set to refresh people's memory with what that is.
Anyone want to take a stab at answering this? If not, I can try. So cluster resource set is currently experimental. I think from my understanding, at least, the desire was to eventually deprecate it and not graduate it out of experimental. It was initially introduced more as a stopgap solution in order to be able to get functional clusters of CNI created with Cluster API, because the CNI needs to be installed separately. There was no easy way to do so, and it had to be manual. So the cluster resource sets were introduced as a way to apply an arbitrary manifest or arbitrary config map or secret or to your workload cluster as soon as the API server is up. It was initially implemented in a apply once strategy, which meant it would never be reconciled after the initial apply. So not very resilient for long-term maintenance, more of like a quick get started approach, which is why we started looking into the add-on providers and other solutions. I think recently there was a proposal to make it reconcile, which I think was merged. Anyone can correct me on that. But yeah, so that was added more recently by folks who were already using cluster resource set and looking to use it in the meantime while other solutions weren't available. So that's kind of, my understanding. I don't know if anyone wants to add anything. Fabrizio?
Yeah, adding on top of that, so we know that cluster resource set has some limitation. We recently updated the proposal for supporting the sync mode that was implemented in 1.4.0, if I remember well. So, and the people updating the proposal made a good job in documenting the limitation of cluster resource set, and basically the limitation of cluster resource set are of various nature. First of all, cluster resource set does not offer a convenient way of packaging add-ons. It is just a YAML, a plain YAML. Second, it does not handle well reconciling and deletion of components when you move from one version to another. And so basically, what we would like to do is to not reinvent the wheel, but to integrate CAPI with a add-on solution, or one or more add-on solution that already exist in the community. The provider that we were talking about is trying to integrate to an Helm, but there are many other solutions out there. But at the same time, we got a little bit of pushback from the community, because folks are still using cluster resource set, and from a group of folks, this seems right enough. So we don't have concrete plan to deprecate, but we know that it has limitations that are hard or impossible to fix. So I think that we'll keep it around for some time, but I think that over time the solution is to integrate CAPI with a proper add-on solution. This is my personal take, but of course, these communities will have the last say on it.
Okay, yeah, I mean, I'm just getting a little bit of mixed messages. So, but it feels like what I'm hearing from both you and Cecile is that long-term, it sounds like this is not the way we want to go, and we want to move towards add-ons. And so that's exactly why I'm bringing this up, because if we're going to move towards add-ons, I'd like to try and understand what kind of add-on could we do that would, you know, supplement or replace this functionality that's here. I'm curious, you know, for this functionality, if most, you know, if people that are using it, if a Helm type chart would replace it, and if not, then what would be the add-on effective replacement that would supersede this? Because we're already we had one question actually in the CapH repo that pointed to this and said, well, there's this thing too. And so they're understandably a little confused, like, you know, which one do I apply, in the case that, of course, a Helm chart would be a similar functionality that they could try and add to the cluster resource set. So, yeah. Do you have any ideas, like what folks would think would be the replacement for this, and if so, Helm or another add-on be the thing?
Go ahead, Fabrizio.
Yeah, it is a tricky question in the sense that we know that the first solution, cluster resource set, has limitation, and there is not a good way to fix the limitation. And so we tried to get the community to rally around something else, and this is what we hope that will happen. But it will take a little bit of time. One of the trigger of this was the moving of cloud providers out of 3, which triggered it. So we have to give time to the cluster API add-on provider to grow and to reach maturity. In order to do so, they need feedback from the community, and so it will take a little bit of time. So there is no black and white or preferred solution. As a CAPI, we kind of recognize that we need add-on. At the same time, we don't want to reinvent the wheel and implement another add-on manager while people are using already and are happy with already existing add-on manager. It will be a duplication in the community it will be an effort that we cannot sustain as a small team, etc., etc. So if I look this also with the head of SIG cluster lifecycle tech lead, I think that we should avoid duplication and we should focus capping doing one thing well and leverage another tool for the DOM provisioning. Just provide a thin layer that is orchestrating Helm or K-up or whatever together with the cluster. I think that's the ideal solution. But yeah, in order, it is open source, it is community. At the end, it drives the feedback from the user, etc., etc. So we'll...
Okay. Yeah. All right. That helps. I mean, I agree, and that's kind of what I'm seeing already within our CAPI realm here, just between CapH and this, and then the other open source tooling. I believe there's kind of a progression, because one of the things in the research we had with CapH is that there are the people that were interested in this realm, they had other solutions. Like there's another solution that's even more robust of orchestrating Helm charts with CRDs than what CapH is. And so I think, and then also I believe that, if you're really hydrating clusters, CAPI by itself shouldn't be the primary thing. It should be similar to echoing your comments, Fabrizio. It should be a bootstrapper, so perhaps there's an add-on of a GitOps, bootstrap, type of thing. And then people can use that to, hydrate with underlying Flux or Argo or whatever, to do the rest. But yeah, so I perhaps then maybe next steps might be for me to put together a proposal on kind of the future of these things, a plan. Would that be a good welcome?
Yeah, or engaging into the community. Fun thing is that when we started CapH, and for a long time there was basically no feedback, and then in 2 or 3 weeks we discovered that there were already 3 or 4 projects doing the same. And so now we are trying to get those community to get together and join forces, because at the end it is what you need to make a project successful. There are 3, 4 projects out there that are doing similar things, but no one of them is complete or big enough to achieve the level of maturity that everyone expects. And so, yeah, we are doing our push to get this happening.
Okay. All right, cool. Yeah, I think we can move on. I think I'll put something together, kind of how I could see things playing out here. So I'm gonna let someone else, the next person, go. Thanks.
Thanks. Thanks, Fabrizio and David. Yeah, the add-on space is a complex and very crowded one. So good question. Okay, so Fabrizio, you have the next one about the image registry. Actually, you have the next 2. So not giving you a break. Go ahead.
So thank you. So first of all, we discussed already several times. I got another ping from Ben from Test Infra / Kubernetes steering committee. So basically, that the entire community is trying to reduce the cost of the infrastructure, and one key point for this to happen is the migration from the older image registry, which is K8S GCRIO, to the new one, which is registry KASIO. This effort basically had to accelerate due to the rising cost of the infra, and a big bang migration happened at the 20th of March, so a few days ago. So to call, first of all, if any one of you is experiencing problem, please report back. We can help you to get in contact with folks that are driving this effort. Second, Ben prepared a couple of guides that will help you to understand which images are you using from K8S.io, and how to set up a local registry, how to mirror images, etc., etc. I linked them in this document. There is a link in the home page of the CAPI book. I know that Yuvaraji is discussing with Ben how to prepare a specific guide for Cluster API. And so please help the community. This is really important for the overall future of Kubernetes.
Thanks, Fabrizio. Yuvraj, go ahead.
Yeah, I just wanted to add that the guide for cluster API in the how to identify images and how to mirror, and also how to use the consume mirrored images is already merged. So it's already part of the guide that Fabrizio is listing. So please go ahead, take a look and see if there's anything that we would want to add on top of it.
All right. Anyone got any questions for Fabrizio on this topic? Cool. If not, go ahead with the next one, Fabrizio.
Okay, next one is a bit of bad news. So you may know that we are using a library which is called Drone in Cluster Cattle for doing substitution. And it seems that this library is not longer maintained. They are not accepting nor PR nor issues. And this is a problem. So we have to look for substitution. And that's a fun one because we made a search for alternatives, and it seemed that there are alternatives, but they have slightly difference in syntax. And so, yeah, we have to figure it out how to move on. If you are interested, please take a look at the issue. There is a back and forth between me and the people that raised the concern, but it's something that we should address the sooner the better.
Thanks for taking a look at that. Anyone got any comments, questions, ideas, suggestions? All right, please take a look at the issue if you want to comment async. All right, I'm guessing this next one is from the release comms team.
Yes, great. Thank you, Cecile. So yesterday, CAPI released 1.4 and 2 new patch versions. And I would like to just thank everyone who contributed to it. And I would like to thank everyone who worked on making the release possible. I will move quickly along to the next topic, which is the area labels. And this is one of the improvements that we are working on that was identified, where we would like to discuss and have input on which area labels CAPI should have, so that we can start automatically assigning them to different areas. And this helps with improving the release notes. So we are looking for input to these issues. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you, Oscar. And I just want to say huge congrats to the release team. Really, really great work all throughout this cycle. Like, you all had a not easy task of doing this for the first time with no prior example or prior art, and you, I think, over-delivered. So thank you so much for all your hard work and getting us to this 1.4 release. Anyone got any questions, comments about release, area labels, anything else?
Real quick on the area labels, it's in a Google Doc, and I don't think everybody has edit. And so I think we kind of went with suggest for now. But if there's a reason that you need edit or want to change something, let me know. I think myself and Oscar are both, I don't know if Oscar's owner of the file. I don't know how this works, but anyway, we should be able to help add and do that kind of stuff. So it's just a running list for now. We can add, delete, whatever. And that's kind of why I wanted suggestions.
Sounds good. Is there an issue associated with this doc, or?
Yes, it should
is
be
it
that
standalone?
8263, I believe. It's kind of called out there towards the end.
Oh, right there. Okay, perfect. Great. Awesome. And I guess one question, so just to clarify, these area labels, is the intended usage to auto-generate release notes categorized by area? Or is it
Ye-
also to assign owners to PRs for review? Or neither?
So it could be a larger use case, but for the release comms team, it's to help us be able to put them into buckets, basically. So when you look at the release notes, they have prefix on all the notes. And in some cases, we're not sure what the area should be. So the ask here is that as a part of the process, notes will be, area labels will be added either by the person creating the PR or the reviewer, and then hopefully long-term be automatically added, kind of like Kubernetes is, at least for release notes. Now, assigning tasks, that could be another topic as well.
Sounds good. All right. Any questions on that? All right. If not, you, Raj, you have the next one, and it's a exciting one. Go ahead.
Yeah. Yeah, and segueing nicely to the next one is with the 1.4 and the patch releases out, we now have a 1.5 release team. Thanks folks who all volunteered, and congratulations on being part of the next release team. The 1.5 release team would start on April 3rd and will go until July 25th.
Awesome. Thank you, Raj. I was not able to open the Slack link on my browser, so I just put a screenshot there for now so people can see the names. But you can click on the Slack and congratulate everyone for stepping up and volunteering to be part of the release team. And yeah, thank you everyone who's part of this and keeping this going. Any questions on that? Fabrizio, go ahead.
Yeah, piling up of the congrats. It was really amazing to see this stepping in and see how we deliver. And I have a great expectation for the next one. Thank you everyone for volunteering. If I'm not wrong, tomorrow there will be also a retrospective, and this is part of our improvement process. So Yuvaraji, it could be great if we add details about tomorrow retrospective meeting, and I invite everyone who is interested to attend, because yeah, if we learn from the first experience, we can do better next time.
Yeah, sure. I've announced it in the Slack channel. Where did you want me to add details? In the meeting doc here?
Yes, thank you.
Yeah, sure, I will.
All right. Yeah, thanks for saying that, Fabrizio. And no pressure next release team, but Fabrizio has great expectations. All right. One question for you, Yuvraj. Is the retro open to all?
Yes, it is. Of course.
Awesome. Okay, great. So if you're interested in attending, feel free to attend that. There will be details in Slack, I guess. All right, great. Let's move on to the next topic. Miko, go ahead.
Yep, just a quick service announcement here. The machine pools PR is moving along on the cluster autoscaler, and hopefully I'll give it all the approvals this Friday if there's no big changes that are needed. So yeah, please take a look if you're interested. That's about it.
Awesome. And just a note also that this goes hand in hand with machine pool machines in CAPI, which is still waiting for some reviews. So if you're interested in this area, please take a look.
And I
Right,
guess to
thanks,
follow
Matt.
up on, that, like this should be safe even if machine pools aren't present, because the cluster autoscaler will look to see if the machine pool CR is there and just not do anything about that otherwise. So should be okay even to go in separately.
Totally. Yeah, great point. All right. Thanks, Matt and Jonathan, for working on this. Any questions from anyone on machine pool machines or autoscaler machine pools? Okay. Cigar, you have the next topic. Go ahead.
Thanks, Cecile. I just had a question around since you all know that we introduced the experimental API types around the IPAM, which were IP addresses and IP address claims were the two CRs that we introduced. I think 1.3 or 1.4 was when we introduced those. There was no specific contract as such defined around what around the things that the different IPAM providers should implement. So there, like for folks who might not know about this, there is contract definition in the cluster API book around the infrastructure providers, the bootstrap providers, the KCP providers, and all of that. So it's just hoping what is the guidance to change the contract for the IPAM API types, since it is an experimental API? Can we do this in a patch release, or should we wait for the next minor release to make changes to these contracts? Just looking for some guidance here.
So there was a recent PR proposal from Fabrizio, I think that merged, for allowing experimental features to be exceptionally immersed into patches if they are, in small scope and they don't touch any other areas of the code that are not experimental. That being said, we do want to keep this as a case by case, like exception only basis, to not make it a habit, because with every change that we make in a patch release, even if it's experimental, we increase the risk and the difficulty for folks to adopt it. So if there are too many commits, it can be hard to, parse through everything. So I think preference is still to always put stuff in a minor release if it's possible, but if it's really blocking the development of an experimental feature, then I think it can be proposed as a patch and evaluated case by case. Does that? Oh,
go ahead, Fabrizio.
Go ahead, Fabrizio.
Yeah. So first of all, I was checking. We don't have yet a documentation of the contract for this piece of the code. We have only the proposal. So I will suggest to start documenting with regard the addition of a condition. I think that the condition is basically to signal while the claim has been processed. Is that right, Sagar?
Yeah.
I think that if we don't have another way to signal this, it's more a bug of the current documentation or than an improvement. So I don't, because otherwise, how can we detect when the address is provided? So if everyone agrees that this is a lack of current documentation, we can have a better documentation. I only ask the courtesy to check with the few, if I remember, there are only one or two implementation of this provider. So it should be easy to check, to have a feedback look that we are not breaking anyone. And also answering to Cecile, in CAPI we have only API types. So I do not expect this to be an invasive change.
Yeah. Go
Okay.
ahead, Cigar.
So I think in terms of next steps, maybe I can start or create an issue and add at least I know there are two implementations currently. One is the in-cluster IPAM provider implementation, and I know some of the folks are working on an Infoblox IPAM provider implementation. So I'd reach out to at least these two sets that I know and ask for specifics around if this contract change might break something for them or make it harder for them to accept or to move on to like a patch release with this contract change. If not the case, then we can, or maybe at least we can start the discussion there and hopefully go from there. Yeah, this was just to get an idea of like if this is something that we could do in the current patch or in the current patch release or not. But yeah, thanks.
Sounds good. And no matter what, we should still start with a patch or a fix in the main branch as the first step. So we can start there. And if anyone is in this call or listening to the recording and is like, wait a second, I have an IPAM provider and it wasn't listed, you should definitely reach out to Cigar, just so we know about you. All right. Willie, you got the next topic and last one. Go ahead.
Yeah, hey everyone. I just wanted to raise up a potential issue with CAPI 1.4 that we've been running into on the CAPZ side. This is specific to dual stack clusters for Azure because with Azure IPv6, you need to have both an IPv6 and IPv4. So it's like it has to be dual stack. So the issue is there's two internal IP fields on our nodes. And there seems to be an issue with SSA being unable to like apply a patch when there's a duplicate field. And yeah, I'm not too sure like exactly what changed in CAPI 1.4 that's causing this, but I think Yuvraj has been taking a look. And thank you again. And just wanted to raise this potential issue if anyone has problems with like duplicate fields in CAPI 1.4. Yuvraj?
Yeah, so this explicitly happens only when there is dual stack involved, because that is when there is a merge key conflict when you try to apply an SSA patch. One thing that I'm still curious about, which I'm looking at right now, is we don't. So the merge key conflict is in the status of a node, but we only SSA patch the labels of the node. So I'm trying to dig deep to see where the actual problem is. But from the preliminary analysis I did, it looks like the problem is because on the API server, when you send the SSA patch, it needs to perform some calculations to figure out field ownership so that it can then apply the patch. And it cannot figure out the field ownership because there are conflicts in the key. The problem boils down to the node status address not having a merge key which is unique enough to identify multiple entries in that list. There has been some work in Kubernetes upstream to kind of solve this problem by adopting clients, but we'll have to dig deep and figure out what it is. Like I need to do some more research so that we can have a recommendation on how to solve this problem.
Yeah, thanks for that explanation. It definitely seems like we're going the right direction, but yeah, just a quick announcement in case anyone's running into similar issues when upgrading.
Fabrizio?
I'd like to repeat the issue just to see if I got it right. So what's happening is that we are patching labels, and we got an error back because the node core type, it's not a CR, does not have is not capable to match SSA patch due to some field, how some field are modeled in status.
Okay. Yes.
Okay, that will be a fun one.
Yeah.
Thank you.
That's exactly right. Go ahead, Yuvraj.
One thing I want to add is I know that other providers are also working on integrating 1.4 into their releases right now. So if other providers can also run dual stack tests and let us know if you're seeing similar problems, that would be great for us to signal and identify and then isolate the problem a little further.
Yep. And one small clarification, we're running this with CABZ with IPv6 single stack, not dual stack, but we should run the dual stack test too to see if we run into the same error. The reason we run into it with IPv6 in Azure specifically is because there is no true single stack IPv6 network for VMs. So the Kubernetes is single stack, but the VM has a dual network IPv4, IPv6. So there's one IP for IPv4, one for IPv6 in the node addresses. But yeah, if anyone in the other providers can run that test, that would be super useful. Thanks, Willie, for bringing this up. Any other
no
questions
problem.
or comments?
Yeah, so there's a question about if there's a GitHub issue. There isn't right now, but I can create one. I think, yeah, I'll create one. There's a discussion in the Slack right now, yeah, as well as the another issue.
Sounds good. Yeah, I think the old one is a bit outdated since it's covering mostly the race condition that was happening before. So we should probably create a new one. All right. Thanks for all the discussion topics, everyone. Last but not least, provider updates. Matt Boersma, you have the first one.
Thank you, Cecile. Nothing really to add. What I have there, we have 2 patch releases that went out yesterday. This is 2 weeks of work. Sometimes we do it more quickly, so there actually is quite a bit in there. Please use those if you're a CAPC user. And then Willie already talked about the CAPI 140 integration, so I don't need to go over that. That's it.
Awesome. Cap OCI, Joe.
Hey, sorry, I didn't have my camera on earlier. I apologize. Yeah, so we cut release 0.8.0, I don't know, maybe a week or 2 back. And I was out of town for a little while, but we now support OKE, Oracle's managed Kubernetes. I think I demoed that off. But then the other thing we're kind of excited about is we support Windows, at least on our bare metal. So not VMs yet, but on our bare metal. So.
Very cool. Thanks for sharing that. And I guess you've already heard of the Managed Kubernetes Working Group.
I attempt to attend that, yes.
All right.
Thank you.
Great. Might be good to get Oracle folks like opinions in there. Awesome. And then last one, Cap H. Still don't know how to pronounce it. Jonathan, go ahead.
Yeah, I just wanted to share that I got the image promoted for v0.1.0 alpha 1. So that's officially on the registry.kates.io URL. So you can pull it and give it a try if you'd like.
Great. What's the best way for folks to get started?
So I'm working on adding some makefile targets right now so that you can run make deploy or make install and get that set up for now. I'm also working on setting it up so that we have add-on providers and cluster cuddle in it, but that might take a bit. So for now, I was just gonna set up the make file so that you could deploy it to your management cluster easily. So that'll be coming in the next couple days.
Awesome, thank you. Any questions for any of the providers or any additional last minute provider updates? All right, any last minute questions, topics, concerns, shout outs? Fabrizio.
Just thank you for all the providers which are working to the CAPI bump. It is super. Yeah, without the provider, CAP itself is not really meaningful. So yeah, we need. It is super important. We need feedback, and then we need a release with support for CAPI 1.4 as soon as possible. Thank you, everyone working on this.
Absolutely. All right. If nothing else, hope you all have a great end of your Wednesday or Thursday if it's already Thursday in your time zone, and see you all next week. Thanks.